way that I usually do, in an opposite form that I usually do meetings. We're going to start with the end first. Okay. And with that, I want to introduce to you somebody who's with us tonight, a young lady named Bruchi. Bruchi, should give everybody a
Hello,
hand up so that they
I'm
know who you
Rocky.
are. Bruchi is a soldier in the IDF. She's a lone soldier in the IDF. She actually is currently serving in our Air Force in the very southern part of the country. Okay. So I want the first half hour of our meeting to talk about instead of Brooklyn, what I'm trying to do is instead of old people like me telling everybody what it's like, it's better that I think that we start with you just saying how it really is. So I'll start by asking you a couple of questions. Brooklyn, you just answer the questions comfortably, okay?
Okay.
Brooklyn, you made Aliyah when?
I made Aliyah 1 year ago in October.
1 year in October, and you drafted when?
I drafted in May
In May. So you're in the army now. How long?
for like 6.5 months.
Okay. And you started your service. You said you really wanted to draft in the army, or you were forced to draft?
So I actually was not forced to. At first, I got like a religious exemption. I got a pator, but like then everything with the hostages happened, and I was like, what can I do? Like, and I'm like, I gotta do my part. So I went to my Tov and I told them I want to draft, and I drafted and removed my pator.
Okay. So your first 3 months, what did you do in the army?
My first 3 months, I went to Mechvelon.
Explain to everybody what Michbelon is.
So Mechvelon is for people that don't speak Hebrew. Usually it's Olam Chadashim, but sometimes it's people that have been like living in Israel but like don't speak Hebrew for whatever reason. And it's like basic training plus Opan together. And it's 3 months where like we go from like they divide you according to levels, and it's like pretty intense for 3 months. But like we learn Hebrew like every day, and then it's also like basic training.
So when you say learn Hebrew, from what hour to what hour did you spend in a classroom? From what hour to what hour were we out in the field?
So it was like all day, it was like a lot of just doing nothing. But the classes were just like 50, like 45 to 50 minutes each. And it would be like we would wake up at from anywhere from 6 a.m. to like 6:37 sometimes. And the classes, it would be like breakfast, cleaning your room like Mizdar, and then like it would start like lessons, and each one we would have like 50 minutes class and like 10 minute break, and it was like a lot standing in a chet and like stay turim and like back in a chet and like run to your classroom. Everything would be like timed. It would be like start your watches and just running, and that would be basically the whole day with like lunch and dinner like somewhere in between. Sometimes we would have like some classes like about Israel, and then like we had one free hour every day, and then we had to be in bed. And in this free hour we could do like whatever we want, whether it's talk on the phone, just be on our phone. That's the only like hour we were allowed to be on our phone. Like that's the hour that I would work out in. Call my family, and it's also like you have to get ready for bed, and then like you just have to be in bed like at the end.
And if I were to ask you, your commanders, did you find them to be the most empathetic people and helpful while you were there?
So right now, where I am now, I look back and I'm like, they were the most empathetic people, and they cared so much. That's like in comparison, like to my commanders right now. So that's how I think back to it. Then I felt like sometimes I can personally say my commander was really like nice. Sometimes she saw like I'm not doing so well, so she's like, "Oh, do you want to like call someone?" And she let me sometimes. Like they had like a lot more understanding of what it's like to be Olam Chadashim. So they like right now I look back and I'm like they really like got us a lot more than like the commanders right now who just like I feel like they just don't care. They don't like see a difference from like Olam Khadashim. They just think we're more stupid because we don't speak the language. Um, and then I feel like they understood more and they actually, at least some commanders, I personally am grateful. I think I had a very good commander. And I think like she tried at least to be really nice.
What would you say in the 3 months that you were in Mikve alone, your biggest challenges were?
So my biggest challenge was like mentally, personally for me, it was just really draining learning the language. Like I went into mikveh not knowing like any Hebrew. Like I knew like shalom, makore, and like that's basically it. Also, personally, like for me, it was like a lot of like culture change. And also just me like getting used to like being in the army and also like I grew up like Haredi, I grew up Hasidic, I grew up like I grew up like Satmar and like just knowing that I'm doing something that's not accepted was also like just difficult and like just you know, meeting like a lot of new people, like getting used to the whole army was like difficult, but mostly it was like the Hebrew, like the whole day, especially the first 2 weeks. I remember like I was sitting there and like I understood nothing, like absolutely nothing what my commander said. And like until like they divided us into like our levels.
Okay, so here we are now, 3 months later. Before we go into where you are today, you have a lot of friends that are obviously lone soldiers also.
Yes.
If you were to ask them today if they could turn the clock back and do this all again, knowing what they know now, would they draft again?
Absolutely not.
And why is that?
Because everyone is just like the army just like doesn't care. um Besides like the people who are doing like a career where they could like do it after the army and they're like, and then there's also there is some people that do like the army, but like mostly the people that like the army from the Olam Khadishim are the people that are taking it into a career.
Okay. So you don't think that they would want to, if they were to come to Israel tomorrow, that wouldn't stand in line to join the army?
Absolutely not. Like at least
Okay.
most of my friends is just like we're like counting down the days and yeah. And
So,
also I know some people from Mahal and they're just like some people are just like we're so done, we're finishing and going back to America and then that's it.
so in the after the 3 months in Mikveh alone, which was your Hebrew course, at what point did they start talking to you about what units you will actually be serving in for your whole service?
Okay, so I gotta say, people say that they speak about it in Mikveh alone. I found that they did not really speak about it much. My commanders didn't really speak about the different tafkidim. They had one day where some people came from like a few units to speak, but it's also very difficult if you still don't speak the language perfectly. Like you don't understand really what they're saying if they're speaking very fast. And then it's they don't really speak much about different tafkidim. I got like I did my research by speaking like to people like out of the army, reaching out to different like lone soldier centers or to my or different people. And then I got like your commander comes and she gives you like you get to choose one list, either like a combat list or like Jobnikim list, and she's like you have to choose like five tafkidim that you want, and hopefully like you'll get one of it. And like not all like the tafkidim are on the list.
So,
And
for
like for
example,
me,
when you looked at the list of jobs, what job did you want, and did you get it?
I didn't want any of the jobs. I kept on telling my commander that I want to be a madagit,
Explain to
or
everybody what that
be
is.
a madagit is a fitness instructor in the army, or I wanted to be a madricha in Sarel. It's a madricha for Sarel, which is like a program for people who come to volunteer.
And you got that.
No.
So how did then
So
they
no,
decide where you're
but
going?
actually, Mechve, I kept on like pushing for it, and I got so the day of the tekis, my commander said like, "Oh, you just need to wait. You gotta speak to Katsin Miyun again." So I waited a week, and then I spoke to Katsin Miyun. He said he really wants to help me because like I kept on pushing for it, and he said I could go like to the Miyun at Wingate. So what happened over there was it's like a beep test, which is like running from line to line, and you have to like keep on running back, and you need a certain amount of time to pass. Now you needed 5 minutes, 15 seconds. They already like said 5 minutes, and I don't know what happened, what I did, but I didn't pass. But like I was not okay that I didn't pass because this means so much to me. So I went to the head of the Miyun and I was like practically crying, and I'm like, listen, I chose to join the army. I'm a lone soldier. This is going everything like against everything I grew up on. This is something I'm really passionate about, and like I know I can do this. I will give it all my effort. Now he said he will pass me, and he will try to help me get the tough kid. Now I went home and I actually called my commander and I told her what happened, and I'm like, I hope they're not lying and about this because I just really want this. And she's like, Afpam, like we don't lie. Nobody in the army lies. So I waited like anxiously at home for 3 weeks. And then after 3 weeks, the Katsinian calls me and he's like, you cannot get the job. And I'm like, why? He's like, you never pass. So I waited at home for like just anxiously for like absolutely no reason. Plus, they lied to me. Plus, now I needed like to get a tough gate. So what happened was like he sent me to the Katin Miyun from Chalaver, and then I went
Wait,
the
you have
next
to
day.
remember that not everybody understands your words in Hebrew. What's a tafkid and what's chalavim?
Oh, okay. So the I still had to get a job, which is a tough gate, and Chalaver is the Air Force. So I went to the Katin Miyun, the sorting officer from the Air Force, the next day, and she gave me like basically three options. One is to do a job that's just guarding, one to work in the kitchen, or to be a firefighter. Now I chose to be a firefighter. So I had to go the next day to the new base. I arrive and my commander over there tells me, okay, like now you have to like go home and we'll call you like when it's time to go for the course.
So wait,
So
so wait, you said you had to go from home to the base? Where do you live and where's the
I
base?
So I live in Jerusalem, and my base is all the way down south. It takes like 3.5 hours to get there.
So you got down there so that all she did was tell you go home?
So she said the next day, like, go home. Also, what happened, like, in between all this waiting from all those weeks, this was like happened over like 1.5 months. All this time, like, from Mikve, they said, like, you can't be home, but, and then the new draft already started, and they're like, you have to come to base because you can't just be home, but they're like, we don't have place for you to sleep. So one day I had to travel like all the way up north, which took 4 hours, and then go all the way home. Like and then they just like drove me crazy, and they're like, you can't just be home, you can't come to base. And they're like, and I also had to go to Mikve like before that 2 weeks just like to clean and do nothing because I was just waiting for answers when I never even passed and they just made me wait for no reason. So now with the Air Force, I arrived and I went back home. And then when I came back, like after, she's like, you can't go to the course because only one person at a time we could send to the course, and a new person arrived, and your Hebrew isn't so good. So you just like you'll have to wait. So I've been going to base, waking up at like 6:45 to like clean the room, but like I have nothing, no job to do all day, and like I'm literally like going crazy, and like I don't feel fulfilled. This is not why I joined the army, and I keep on like trying to speak to people, and it's just been really like frustrating. And also I figured out they could send as many people as they want to the course, which is why like I was really upset that my commander lied about that, even though like it was about my Hebrew. And then like they're not going to be sending me to the course. They want to be sending me to like a Hebrew course in a week and a half for 3 weeks. But afterwards, like they don't know where they're going to send me, if my Hebrew is going to be good enough. I've been requesting like to switch to different jobs, like to be something else, and they're like, your Hebrew isn't good enough. But I know certain jobs like foreign relations, you don't need such a good Hebrew, because I know people who did it, and they just say like you do need it. And I don't know what's gonna happen, like even after, if I do the Hebrew, it's just like every day like hoping again and trying to speak to different people, and you're like, maybe this person is gonna help me. And then you just like, you keep on speaking, but then like every day, and then my motivation has gone like all the way down, because every day like I try again. I tried so hard in Mikveh. I gave it like my absolute all every single day. And like I chose to do this, and because like I want to contribute to the country, but I'm like, I feel like I'm not doing anything, and at this point like I'm pretty much like burnt out.
So if you had the chance to do something right now, what would you do?
If I would be given the opportunity, I would like ask to go to like the fitness instructor course, because it's something I really love.
And if they gave you the option just to be done with the army, would you leave? Would you
I,
leave?
I would rather choose that, yes.
Okay. Now, Brookie, you have to understand that everybody that's here in this group are all mental health specialists. Their job is to help young people, old people also, be okay mentally.
Yes, but one thing I can say is like for me as a person, like I keep on like trying, and like I at this point you come to the point where it's like you don't want to speak to anyone anymore. You don't want to tell them like what's going on anymore, because you're like, there's just no point. You want someone like to do something. Like I don't want to speak to my. They're like, you can speak to the Mashakitash, you can speak to the Kaban, you can speak to the Mashakativrit, you can speak to your commander, and they're all like, we understand you, we feel you. I don't want like, I don't need anyone to tell me that. I need someone like to do something. I want to feel fulfilled. Like I try like studying stuff on my phone. I take books along to base, but it's so many hours every day, and like I speak to people, but like it's just, I feel like it's just a waste of my time, and I cannot contribute anything if they don't give me a tough kid.
And how is that helping your mental health?
What?
How do you mentally feel at the end of the day with all this frustration?
So usually every day, if I usually wake up, I'm okay, and then in middle of the day, it's just like usually a lot of the time I'm just like crying, and I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I usually called people, or like I just lay down for a bit. I keep on like, where I am stationed in my base, it's a very big base. And the firefighters are like in one place, and we can't really go anywhere because we have to like cross the runway. So I just go, I walk around in circles just like to keep on moving. So I shouldn't be sitting all day. And then I work out every day, but it's only, the gym is open from 6 to 8. And usually like after that I feel a bit better, because like I just did something and I feel like better. I feel like more accomplished, like I did something. But usually like throughout the day I'm just like totally done. I already wrote like whole lists of like pros and cons of the army, and I just like have way too much time to think. And like it's just, having too much time is like not a good thing. Like I think that keeping busy is good, and like doing something that like helps me feel fulfilled. Like I speak to like people every single day for like a lot of hours, like either on the phone or on my base. But it's not, I don't feel like I'm doing something, and I'm like, it's just a waste of my time, and I could like be home. It's not like I'm making so much money from the army. I could be home. I could get a job. And like I personally know, like I there's jobs where I could start working tomorrow. And I'm like, I'm just here on this base doing like absolutely nothing. I'm costing the army money, and this is, I want to contribute. Like this is all why I joined. and my community doesn't support it, um, like it's just like very difficult, like just being there, not feeling fulfilled.
Right. So if you could suggest to anybody that's sitting here with us in the room tonight, if you thought there would be anything they could do to be helpful to lone soldiers like yourself, what would you say they should do?
I would say like try having connections in the army and like actually doing something. Like some people, it's always very important for people to have someone to speak to. So like having therapists, some people like where people can come and like speak to is all very important. But like I could only speak for my situation, and in my situation, it's like I don't want that. I need someone to do something because once you're already doing a tough gig and like whatever, and like once I feel fulfilled, and then there's like stuff on top of that, it's always good to have people to speak to. But for situations like me where I'm not doing anything, I need someone that can do something to like give me some job. Like even right now when they ask me to do the dishes, I'm not upset. Like I'm happy about it because I'm actually contributing something. It's like for those 30 minutes that I wash the dishes, like I'm doing something. It's not like I'm just sitting all day like or doing stuff. I need like if I could suggest something, it's just like no having some sort of connection where like giving people stuff where they feel like fulfilled, have them do certain tasks, and like after that, like if people like need someone to speak to, that's always like very important, like to feel supported, to know like you can always call someone. For example, I call Mike a lot of the time, and that's like very, very helpful. But it's just like at the same time right now I'm just like I'm based not doing anything. And right now I just need someone that can like do something. So I've been like calling my Shelly show, but she's not been very helpful. So yeah.
Right. So now we're gonna let Brookie go because she has things to do this evening. This is the opportunity. If anybody in the group would like to ask her a question, please take the time to ask her now. Lisa, looks like you're talking, but we can't hear you.
You need to unmute yourself, Lisa. See if I can do it for you.
In the meantime, anybody else?
Anybody
Because
else?
I don't want to tie Brookie up. She has an opportunity to see friends this evening, and I don't want her to be stuck with us.
I guess I'm wondering, can you leave if you want to, or once you commit, you have to stay?
So I would say if people were able to just leave, although Alam Kadashim would just already have left, they make it very difficult to leave. Usually it's only like if you get married or if you say like you're gonna hurt yourself and you say you're mentally not doing well. So, but then that lowers your profile, and some people don't want it because it can affect like jobs in the future in Israel. But like I would say if people had the ability to just leave, a lot of people would have done that already.
100%.
Anybody else?
Suzanne.
Yes, I have a question. Thank you so much, Rachi, for sharing all of this. It's very touching. I'm curious if you've noticed in the frustrations that you experience in your entire experience and the letdown that you describe about, wanting to serve our homeland and wanting to do something and feeling like you're not. I'm wondering if you've noticed anything about yourself that perhaps you were not aware of before? Any strengths that have come to your awareness or that you've developed as a result of the frustration, as a result of your experience that's been so challenging for you? I'm wondering if you've noticed things about yourself that you didn't notice before, as oftentimes when we come into new situations or we're confronted by situations we didn't expect, that we learn things about ourselves.
I can say 100% yes. I learned like a lot about myself to like connect with myself, how I'm really feeling. And like to figure out, like I learned how to like figure out where my frustrations are coming from, why I'm frustrated, what I'm like feeling. I also learned like I actually feel like I gained a lot of confidence in the army because I realized if I'm not gonna say anything, nothing is gonna happen. And if I'm not gonna do something to make a change, there's gonna be no change. And I learned like how powerful like I am, and like I learned that I need to keep on fighting, and that at the end of the day, like you're there for yourself and you gotta do something. And like I just learned like really like a lot about myself, who I am like as a person, like in the army with new people. And like I learned personally, for me all my life I thought that I cannot learn a new language, but I learned it is possible. I learned like to overcome like a lot of my uncomfortabilities, and like I find like it's really amazing.
Well done, Kol hakavod.
That's wonderful. Kol hakavod. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Anybody else have a question for Brooklyn?
When you talked a few moments ago about having somebody to talk to, you know, for the soldiers to have someone to talk to, not necessarily therapy, but just to have a conversation. Obviously, it's not so easy for therapists to come in to the bases. It can be very restrictive. We run a 24/7 support line in which we advertise lone soldiers can definitely call. And that is a conversation. That is somebody that's at the end of a phone 24/7 that is there to support that person through whatever they want to talk about. And it might be just having a moan. It might be just being angry. It might be frustration. It might be anything that you want to pick up. Is that helpful to people? I mean, because
I would, so I can only speak for myself.
yeah,
But I would think that yes. Personally, for me, I like knowing who I'm speaking to.
yeah,
But like, but like I can say some people, I would think like it's just like important knowing you can always like call someone. Sometimes like you just like need to cry to someone. And like if you hear people calling, there's a reason why they're calling. And like it's important just like to know there's someone there at the end of the day.
well, that's what we're offering. How can we help? How can we get our message out to the lone soldiers? I mean, how can we do that? Because that's something we seem to struggle with. We advertise all over the place, but yet we don't get to the heart of where we need to be. So how can we do that? Have you got any ideas for us?
So if I were to think, it's like maybe like coming down to like the bases and explaining what you guys are doing.
Okay.
Like to Mikve alone.
Yeah. Mike?
Yeah, I agree. We all know that this is true, Brookie. Question
It's
is,
like
who do you think we would speak to at Michvelon that would say, yes, come a bunch of therapists and tell us, because the army's going to be so terrible, how we can help you be okay?
so maybe like speak like to the heads or like the memes.
Uh,
If I think like they have the ability to bring in like people, because I know like they bring in people, like we had people from Nefesh B'Nefesh come. And maybe
yeah,
you guys, if it's like difficult to come on your own, you can like come as like part of Nefesh B'Nefesh or part of someone else, and just then explain what you guys do.
right. As of right now, Brookie, when you went into the army, did they give you a piece of paper that says, if you have any problems, here are the different organizations you can call for different things?
So I don't really remember, but I do remember them like sometimes saying this number is important, this number is important, or whatever. But like it's also important, I think, to explain at least stuff in people's languages, because especially at the beginning when they come and explain, it's if they're explaining it in Hebrew and they're saying this is the stuff you could do, like and you don't really speak Hebrew, you don't really get what's going on.
Yeah,
So yeah.
Okay.
amazing.
Thank you, Bruchi. You're an amazing
All
young
right.
woman who may have not found a tough kid in the army, but it's certainly made you into a strong, powerful young woman, which is something that you will carry with you for the rest of your life. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Which
I
she was
appreciate that.
already.
Yeah,
I know Brooklyn now from the beginning of her service.
I know.
First of all, without being biased, she's an amazing human being.
I can see.
I love this girl with all my heart because she has the dynamic of not giving up. She will not give up. And that's what I'm so proud of her for continuing to do.
Thank
Yossi,
you.
are you wanting to ask something? Or you're just putting a thumbs up saying you agree?
All right, Bertie. So you
Okay.
earned your dinner for tonight.
All right. Thank you so much, you guys. And I just want to say, like, having kind people, like people like Mike, I can say for myself, like, I would not have come this far in the army without people, without Mike, without people like him. Just like meeting kind people. Like, sometimes I just like want to cry and I'm like, oh my God, someone is like actually nice. And like, because a lot of times, like, people in the army are not so nice, or like they make fun of your Hebrew. And it's just like meeting nice people is just like really like makes a change. And I can say for myself, I appreciate it. And like, it just like makes a huge difference. So thank you to you guys.
We
You're
need to
not getting rid of me. You're not getting rid of me anytime soon, Brookie.
we need
All
to
right.
make
Have a
Rocky, we need to make a clone of this man. We need a clone of him,
all
yeah?
right.
He's a powerhouse.
Yes,
He's a complete powerhouse.
I agree.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Rocky.
I'm
All right,
gonna
Brookie,
go.
go
Have a
make
great
trouble.
night. Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Thank you
helping us,
for your
Brookie.
All right.
time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so we started with the end. Now we'll start from the beginning. There are 7,200 lone soldiers in the Israeli army. 7,200. Now imagine you just spoke to one of them. And we did not talk anything about the war of the past 3 years. We have not spoken about anything about soldiers that are in combat units that are suffering, having hard times, losing friends. So you can see the picture that we're drawing is actually a very big picture that needs a lot of attention. A lot of attention. And that's why it's very important that all of us continue to work with the commitment of taking care of these young people. Does that sound right, Susan?
It sounds like you're preaching to the converted, but yes.
As I tell Susan all the time, when I talk to a lone soldier, I'm extending my family. And I make sure they feel like they are part of my family by the time we're done talking. Okay, so now we talked about 7,200 soldiers that are lone soldiers. 48% of those lone soldiers are Israeli lone soldiers, which means they are born and raised in Israel to Israeli families who have decided to cast them off, to let them go. Either they can't afford to maintain them. In our modern day, right now, we have a very large number of young men and women that decide they want to go to the army, and their parents, coming from a more religious background, tell them if that's the case, then leave. Leave the house and go away. So they end up having no one, no one beside themselves. And then they become lone soldiers themselves under duress, not by choice. Right? The other 42%, 46% are lone soldiers are people that come from different parts of the world. So the number one number of soldiers that come from outside of Israel are from, somebody tell me.
America, Canada, Australia, the UK. I would say America's perhaps.
Absolutely wrong.
Russia?
The number one place that our lone soldiers come from right now are from Russian-speaking countries.
Yeah, Russia.
Okay, that's the number one. After Russia, all the kinds of Russian-speaking countries. Then it's North America, Canada, English-speaking. Then we go to smaller locations like France, Mexico, Spain, and the such. Now, we were speaking about Mixpellon. Mixpellon is a base in the north where they go where if the Hebrew is below a certain level, they are mandated to go for 3 months to a Hebrew course. Now, I can say this because Brookie's not on the phone right now. On that hour that she had every night, she would call me, and for 20 minutes of her 60 private minutes, we would go over words that she could learn in Hebrew every day. Okay, many of them don't have somebody to do that with. Therefore, many of them go through Mikveh alone, really not learning anything. I'm sorry to say, because they're not guided correctly all the time. I'm trying not to paint a completely dark picture, but because I deal with so many of them, I get calls all the time saying, Mike, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. My Hebrew's not getting any better. And it means that by the time I'm finished here, like Bruchi, she's not going to get a job, or she's going to get a job that's going to be making salad in the kitchen, cleaning bathrooms, and that type of work. Not saying that it's not important, but I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that decided to come from the other side of the world so they can make salad for somebody. Okay, so that's where our lone soldiers come from, and those are the more or less numbers. Okay, many of them decide they want to go to combat units, mostly, especially the males. However, I have to tell you, over the past 2 years, 3 years, many more females are now joining combat units also. And I'm telling you, they're doing an amazing job. A simply amazing job. From every combat unit, 20% of the soldiers in every draft are dropped. They're either kicked out. So for every 100, 20 are kicked out. They're either kicked out because language, they can't keep up with their orders, they can't keep up with their commanders don't like them, and then they're kicked to another unit or reduced to a different job, which I'm telling you is also a great source for frustration and anxiety and failing mental health. We have a lot of kids that come that out of frustration are in a bad place. Susan, I'll shut up. You talk a little bit.
What do you want me to talk about?
Just the kind of frustration you're getting when the lone soldiers are calling the line.
I'm joking, Mike. Okay, so yeah, I mean, look, our Lone Soldier program has been running for over 6 years. We have always offered, through the generous support of our team, to be able to do that program. I'm constantly searching for funding to be able to back that up so we can actually give some compensation to our therapists for working with lone soldiers. But I know a lot of people just feel that it's their way of saying thank you and want to pay back time to the soldiers for doing exactly what they've been doing, especially over the last 2 years. October the 7th, 2023, October the 6th, 2023, we had 250 active lone soldiers in therapy on a weekly basis with Tikva. October the 7th happened, October the 8th came. I instructed and asked all the team, whoever was working with their lone soldiers, to contact them to check that they were okay, because it was a very worrying time for the whole of Kal Yisrael. a miracle actually happened on that day. Maybe that was the first miracle of the war, that almost every single soldier responded to say, thank you for reaching out. I am okay. I'll be in touch at some stage. I was trying to explain to the team that at that time I felt that the therapy side of the Lone Soldier program would go way down. We would struggle to keep the program going because soldiers are busy fighting the fight. And the last thing they need to be doing, and the last thing they were able to do, was fight the fight for themselves. So many of the soldiers that have come back to us and are coming back now are saying to me, now is the time that I need to look at myself. I've had one soldier who turned around to me and said, I need to be able to forgive myself for the job that I have done in the army. God knows what this soldier has.
Explain that better, Susan.
So
I don't think that's clear what that means.
Okay, so the soldier himself was given a TAFKID, was given a job in the army. He was a drone operator, still is a drone operator, is still in the army. And the job that he had, I would imagine, was pretty horrific. And as a consequence of his job, something horrific must have happened. And he need now to be able to live with himself for doing a job that he was told he had to do. But his mental health has suffered strongly because he was instructed to do something in an act of war, consciously went against what his feelings were. And this is the kind of thing that people are bringing into us. We're hearing all sorts of new things, new problems, and the kids now are beginning to struggle. They're struggling with reintegration. They're struggling with, how do I move forward with my life? I'm in and out of Millerwim. You know, you've got people coming into me that are saying, I've been in Millerwim for 300 days. That's active service. So it's affecting their relationships. We've seen an increase in couples therapy being requested. A few months ago, everybody was wanting couples therapy. Why? Because the couples didn't know how to communicate with each other anymore. He had his unit. His unit was the most important relationship he had because he'd been with them since he drafted. So whenever they're called back in, they form the same unit. Come home and they've got a wife there. Okay, well, she doesn't know what I've been through. How can she understand what I've been through for the last 6, 7, 8 months? It's impossible. She can't understand. But nor can he understand what she's been through, worrying about him every single day. Am I going to get a phone call? Am I going to get a visit? So equal importance, but communication is failing. So these are all the different types of things that we're experiencing. We're experiencing a lot of suicidal ideation, a lot of mental health problems that are coming up for people that never expected it for it to happen. Mike feels a lot of this on a daily basis. We get people coming into us for therapy, and we have had an increase recently. We now have an agreement with an organisation called Wings, which is part of the Jewish Agency. They've contracted to send us 100 soldiers, lone soldiers, that have actually mainly been out of service for over a year, but are back in Millerwim or suffering the consequences of the war. So that program is developing. We are also I've just had a very important meeting with Telfed about our Lone Soldier program and our therapy program in general. They're very impressed by what you all do. They're very impressed by the support line that we have going. They're very impressed by the chaplaincy service that we have going. So Telfed are already feeding people into us as well. I'm out there trying to make as many connections as we possibly can with different organizations. Hopefully that will lead to better relationships, more forming relationships in different areas of mental health, which our organization can only benefit from. The work that Mike is doing is almost 24/7. The work that we are doing as an organization is 24/7. So we've got 48 hours in one day. Quite a day to fill, but we do. We do fill that time, and there's lots more going on. So now is the time that the Lone Soldier program is going to grow. And it will grow. And I'm going to be advertising for more therapists to come into the Lone Soldier program and to volunteer. We will be giving training. I'm going to be sending out a form at the tonight, hopefully, if in the groups, because I know a number of you volunteered to work with Lone Soldiers. So I'm going to send the form out. Just fill the form in if you're interested, and then that will come into a new spreadsheet for me. So I'll have everybody in one place, which will make my life a lot easier, and also everybody else's lives a lot easier. Mike, is there anything else that you want me to hit upon? We have been to the base.
No, I just want to be very clear that one of the problems that I find we as commanders and officers, therapists, all the adults, age people, we're so busy in telling the young people what they have to do to get better. We don't spend enough time listening to them. And that's why I wanted to start this meeting by bringing a young lady in who can talk for herself, who can share with you her perspective of her reality. Because once you understand that, then you can start to absorb what the soldier is actually going through. I can tell you, I deal with hundreds of soldiers every month. I can tell you millions of problems, but it sounds different when Brooklyn tells you, some days are bad and some days are worse. And she, the poor girl, lives in Jerusalem and has to go one way to her base is over 4 hours. 4 hours. She sits on an air base very close to Eilat. And for a manager to say, you know what, there's nothing we can do with you today, go home and come back tomorrow.
I've heard that so.
No, that's not an answer.
It's a common.
That's not an answer.
It's becoming a common problem, though, Mike. I'm hearing a lot from the
Yeah,
soldiers.
you're right.
It's ridiculous that they travel all the way down to their base to report for duty, only to be sent back home again. And transportation's not easy, especially on a hot day as well. So they really are not being treated in the best possible way. And that's why we're here, right? We're here to help them through that journey. Mike and I have tried. We've been to the meetings with on the bases. Mike speaks to the commanders, he speaks to the fakeds, and sometimes he gets an empathic answer, and other times he doesn't because they don't really give a damn. And these young kids are struggling. They're struggling because they're away from home, they're away from their families. Some have a reason to be away from their families, and that's a different situation. But the mental health of many of the soldiers, there's some really good mental health. Believe me, it's not all a sad story. Some of them have got great mental health. But there are those, and I think, would you suggest it's a majority, Mike, that don't have such good mental health?
Absolutely.
Then, of course,
so how about you folks? Are there questions you guys have to ask?
Well, hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mike.
You can.
Okay, so I mean, I a few weeks ago I was at a seminar with the chief. Was it of the? What is it? Just thought of it. Just anyway.
Chief of staff?
No, chief of staff for American counselors for the Air Force in America. Right. He was presenting on the issue that Susan was talking about, which was like ethical dilemmas for soldiers, that when they have to deal with something going against their moral being, and then they have to come home. And I wanted to present this to our group because he's a great guy. He's a chaplain for the head chaplain. He's a lieutenant colonel, and he trains 500 chaplains every year. And he's the highest Jewish colonel in the U.S. Air Force. He could really present to us on that. I think he might want a fee. That's the only thing. on you know, what you call the moral dilemmas of soldiers.
Right.
He's a tremendous guy, and he knows a lot about it.
What's
Rabbi Bendel is his name. Colonel Bendel, Rabbi Bendel. Spent a whole weekend with him. Some unbelievable.
So if we continue having meetings like this every once in a while, I would like to also bring in a different soldier from a different background in the Army. So, for example, this time we spoke to a young lady who's a non-combat female. Next, I'd like to bring in a combat male and see if we get the same perspective in their view or different.
Has this been?
What do you guys think about that idea?
It's tremendous.
It's been a different
You
kind
get great perspective.
introduction to the Army. How does this feel to you all? Rather than it's a different aspect. I personally think it's a great idea, but I'm just wondering what the feedback is from everybody else. How you feel about this?
I think it's wonderful, Susan. It's wonderful to hear when Mike speaks. It's very important and instructive. But I think when we hear it firsthand with all the emotions that are coming forth from the person, I think it's really, really valuable.
Right.
And I work with lone soldiers, so I can relate to a lot of what she's saying. But for those of us who don't, also, I think it's important.
Good. Okay.
You know, we had a perfectly comfortable conversation with Bruchi. I can tell you on the average, although I speak to her, I would say at least 5 times a week, all different days. 3 of those times, the conversation starts with her crying.
I guess I'm really wondering how, as mental health professionals, we could help someone like her or people who have that kind of frustration, because it sounds to me like the frustration is it's real. It's based on something like that we can't do anything about. And like, as much as we could help her like find her voice and things like that, at the end of the day, we can't really change that sense of frustration except to validate it. But other than that, what else can we do?
That's a great question, because part of what Susan and I tried to do and continue to do is to get on bases, speak to commanders, and say, wait a minute, guys, we have to change how you're doing these things because you're hurting the soldiers' minds.
We need to have a bit of a staff meeting, I think, Mike. Yossi's got his hand up. Yossi?
Can you hear me okay? I'm in a public place.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine, Yossi.
Okay, great. Just a thought really that native people, they're thinking about the Army from a young age. And they're finding out and they're talking with their friends about units and this and that and processes. At least from age 16, they're having serious discussions about this. And then lots of them go to Mechina for a year also. And then you have those soldiers who are coming in and like Brookie said, like you were saying, like 3 months of a Hebrew course, 3 months is nothing. Is there any scope? And it's just an idea just to throw out there to think about maybe. Is there any scope of Tikva actually running a pre-army course? If they don't do Mechina, then at least it could be even a month's course or longer than a month's course to get them ready, to get them to understand. Right.
The problem with that concept is who's going to pay for it.
I hear you.
Okay, I'm going to put that into the phrasing.
I mean, the truth is, it's in the interest of the Army also. I'm not saying you're going to get any money from them, but it is in their interests. But
Susan, can I say a word or two, please?
Of course you can. Hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I just wonder, Mike, we've heard from Bruchi very powerfully tonight, and obviously you're dealing with these problems on a very massive scale. I'd like to ask a question and then follow it up with a comment, depending on what your answer is. What percentage of lone soldiers do you think have these kind of problems, not necessarily the problems that Bruchi have got, but have significant problems with the army and their service? Are we dealing with a situation where the majority of lone soldiers have problems, or are we talking about a minority?
Let's see. I can answer that very easily. 100%. By month 3, every lone soldier sits and say, "What am I doing here? Why am I doing this?"
Okay, so that surprises me and obviously saddens me. The reason it surprises me is that 2 of my boys were lone soldiers. Granted, they had a great deal of support around, and were not your average type of lone soldier at the other end of the spectrum, like Bruchi, who's had to leave a community, etc. But the impression that I got from my boys, granted it's a few years ago now, was that many of the lone soldiers thrived in that environment. And I wondered, as you were speaking, whether there is a sort of mentoring program that we could involve either ex-lone soldiers who have done well at the end of it all and come through it all, or people who are currently lone soldiers and are doing well with it, to mentor some of the ones who are having problems.
Isn't there all
That's a great question. I think that's an amazing question. There is an organization right now that's called Ach Gadol, Big Brother.
Yeah, that's right.
But you understand, who's going to pay these people to mentor? Right? Because these kids are now out of the army, in college, working. When do they have time? How many hours a day or a week can they speak to them? And that's where we have the problem. Because unless it is a funded program, there's no guarantee when somebody will have time for it. So Ach Gadol, for example, the reason they're able to do it is because part of the program that they have with universities is, in order for them to get their scholarship money, they have to volunteer to a non-profit organization helping. And some of the organizations, their job is just that, helping lone soldiers. So they go and volunteer their hours working with those organizations. And in the end of the month, they have the piece of paper signed off on so that they get their scholarship money. So your idea is brilliant. Question is, how do we continue to do it on a consistent basis where we can reach more soldiers, or where soldiers say, I should be doing this regardless?
I'd just like to add, though, that Jonathan is correct. There are quite a lot of soldiers that do, lone soldiers that do come here, that do have a really positive experience. We see the opposite side of those positive experiences in here, which feel overwhelming sometimes.
Right.
Soldiers who have had a really negative experience. And those are the experiences you don't hear about. It's not kind of put out there. You don't hear about it that often in the public domain. But it comes amplified when you're working with the soldiers in the way that we do, unfortunately. but there are plenty that do have a very good positive experience. Yeah, but then like Bruchi, I was speaking
but you know the saying, one person has a good experience, they tell 2 other people.
Correct.
One person has a bad experience, they tell 15 other people.
And I was speaking to somebody today who said that, you know, once their service is over, they never want to step foot back in Israel. It's been such a horrendous experience. And that's something it's not unusual to hear, which is heartbreaking, because obviously the hope is that they've come to Israel to fight for Israel and they would stay here and be a member of society. But actually it pushes them away sometimes from the way they've been treated by the IDF, which is heartbreaking to hear. So we're kind of self-detonating, I suppose, in a way. Any more comments, questions from anybody?
I somehow I don't know how to turn my camera back on because I'm on my phone. This is Eleanor Robin. Um, I think that none of us here are getting paid, and we're all here volunteering. And I think that many people would volunteer to be a mentor. I see it here in the town where I live. There are various different kinds of mentorship programs where people volunteer to mentor and don't get paid. So I don't think everybody needs to get paid for everything. Some people will do things just out of the goodness of their hearts.
Really?
And being in the army is difficult, no matter what army you're in. If somebody, I don't remember what, it might be on Netflix. There's a new show called Boots. It's a series about a young man who ends up in the U.S. Marines. And it just shows the difficulty of Army life. Army life is difficult, no matter where you are in the world. And of course, I wish that what Bruchi said, all of it was just her perception. But I know that it's not. I know that what she said is true, because I know that that's a lot of what Israeli society is like. And as someone just said, that really is heartbreaking that, you know, it's basically maybe because life is so hard that they're, you know, she's going to be made harder and harder, because otherwise anyway, I just wish what she said wasn't true. But of course, I believed every word that she said. I don't think it's just her perception. You know, I wish somebody had told her, listen, you don't speak Hebrew, they're going to let you wash dishes, they're going to let you make salad, they're going to let you clean toilets, they're going to let you be a support person until the day comes when your Hebrew is good enough for you to do the kind of jobs that you want to do. But no one told her that. So, and she was too young and from a different culture to really know that that was the reality. If she had had Israeli parents, they would have told her that. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. I agree with you that, you know, we are a team of volunteers, and we're here because we want to volunteer, and we can make a headway, and thank God we are, you know, we are doing what we're doing. We obviously, there's many ideas that we have many ideas that are kind of, we're going over all the time on how we can get into here and how we can do this and what we can do. And if anybody has any suggestions or any contacts, reach out to myself, reach out to Mike. We're always here to listen, because all we want to do is improve the lives of our soldiers, all our soldiers. And we're here to try to help to do that.
Yeah, I've not been speaking because sometimes the best thing that I can do is listen. Because when I listen, I learn.
I know. So, anybody else want to say anything? Any comments or anything? No? Okay. So, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We will do another one in hopefully.
If we do another one, we'll bring another soldier in with a different perspective from a different type of unit that we can listen to and speak with also.
I think this is a brilliant way of doing things, Mike. Thank you. And if anybody has any questions outside of the meeting, drop me a WhatsApp. We do have a list of army words transliterated. So I have circulated that once before, but we can get that circulated again. So everybody can keep that in case they do work with a soldier and the soldier's using a word, you've got it transliterated if your Hebrew is not so good like mine. But yeah, just for everybody's attention who is in Israel, although we may now actually be going to Zoom it, we have a conference in Nefesh B'Nefesh building 2 weeks on the 25th of November. The conference is called TRUE, which is Trauma, Resilience and Unity. And it's a two-part conference. The daytime is for professionals and the evening time is a very, very well-packed evening of speakers, which is open to the general public as well. So if you're interested in joining, let me know. I keep posting the flyers in the groups, but seriously, it's well worth signing up for. And as soon as we have it confirmed about the Zoom, I will let everybody know, because I know quite a few people wanted to be able to Zoom into the meeting as well. So yeah. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
evening,
Mike.
everybody.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you so much, Mike and Susan.
I'll circulate the video once I've transformed it over. All right. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.